We like to begin each show with a myth-busting segment where we look at some of the foundation myths of the conservative education reform movement, ideas that are usually inaccurate and sometimes they're outright lies. But these myths are repeated over and over by their well-funded supporters and all too often by the media as well, until eventually they start sounding like the truth. Well, today I want to look at a recent list of the top high schools in the United States that was put together by U.S. News and World Report. The list isn't exactly about myth building. It's about a crudely constructed survey that applauds schools filled with high achievers and ignores excellent schools working with more challenging student bodies. It's always safe to turn a skeptical eye on these top anything lists, top universities, top cities for business, top tropical island vacation spots. It's fun looking at them, but it's important to ask how the list makers decide who makes the cuts. For me, the only list I think you can trust, the only top 10 list, is David Letterman's list, because everyone knows not to take them seriously. But as for all these other lists, buyer beware. So let's get back to the U.S. News and World Report top high schools list. Tucson actually has the distinction of having two schools listed in the national top 10, which is pretty amazing. One is Basis Tucson Charter School, that's at number 5, and Tucson Unified School District's University High School is at number 7. That's pretty impressive for little old Tucson having two schools in the top 10. Both of them deserve congratulations. I'm especially happy to see TUSD getting some good press, because God knows it gets enough bad press, some of it deserved, but much of it undeserved. And as for Basis, it get lots of good press already, and no one can doubt the school has a rigorous, challenging academic curriculum, and its students rise to the challenge. But before we get too excited about having two of the best high schools in the country, before we take the rankings too seriously, we need to take a step back. We need to take a closer look. For U.S. News and World Report, top high schools means schools where top students take U.S. News approved courses and do well on the national tests associated with those courses. It's all about how well students do either on the AP courses, AP stands for Advanced Placement, or the IB, or International Baccalaureate courses. Unfortunately, some excellent neighborhood schools that do great work with students who don't come from the top academic ranks, schools that bring students with average and below average achievement up a grade level or two, they're not going to make much notice from the rankings, which brings up a question. Is a school that gets high achievement out of high achieving students superior to a school with low achieving students that manages to make significant educational progress with them? Well, I've taught in both types of schools. I've taught both types of students, and based on my experience, the unrecognized schools who do great work with low achieving students do harder work and deserve greater praise. Well, let's look at these two schools. To get into TUSD's University High, students have to pass a very tough admission test, and naturally, only the best and the brightest make the cut. Once they're in, University High students take lots of very tough classes. Many of them are AP courses, and no surprise here, the students do very well on the AP tests. University High is a perfect match for the U.S. News ranking. As for Basis, well, Basis likes to call itself an opens admissions school because it wants to leave the impression that it takes all comers and finds a way to turn average students into academic world beaters. But there's more than little smoke and mirrors to that description. True, because it's a charter school, Basis has to take all students who apply, or if they have to hold a lottery if it gets too many applicants for the number of open seats. But Basis uses a number of strategies to weed out the lower students. Its reputation for conducting rigorous classes and assigning piles of homeworks and having students take lots of AP classes in high school, that scares a lot of parents away from sending their kids who might not be great students. The parents who are most likely to apply are ones who have academically successful, hard-working students. And among those students who end up attending, the weaker students are weeded out over the years. Students who can't keep up, they fall by the wayside. So here's an example. The class of 2012 at Basis Tucson, it began with 97 students in the 6th grade. By the senior year, there were only 33 students left, 1 out of 3. Now this year's graduating class, the class of 2014, began with 95 sixth graders. Only 40 survived to their senior year. When you begin with students who are ready for an academic challenge and cull as many as 2/3 of them from the group, you're pretty much guaranteed to end with the kind of students who will shine in the U.S. News and Report rankings. So, I offer Basis Tucson and TUSD's University High my sincere congratulations. They both belong in a long list of schools, district schools, charter schools, private schools, which do an excellent job educating their students. But as for calling them or calling any other high schools in the country one of the top 10, well, I'd love to see a David Letterman top 10 reasons Basis is the best school in the country list. I'll bet it would be hysterical. But David Letterman is retiring soon. I guess I won't have the pleasure of hearing a high school ranking I can take completely seriously.